You're listening to Elite Edupreneurs, a podcast that's empowering educators to become entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hi everyone, thank you for listening to episode 61 in our Back to School series of Elite Edupreneurs. In today's episode, I chat with Kristin Yann from School in the City. Kristin shares how she balances her edupreneur business while being in grad school and teaching full-time. She also shares Instagram tips, including how to be authentic and positive through your post and how to crowdsource your Insta stories. We also discuss why advertising is scary, how to use A/B testing, and why you should create products that solve problems. Let's go to the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Hojo's Teaching Adventures. Do you host your blog on Blogger and want to improve your SEO? Head over to bit.ly.com/HojoSEO to get her ebook, SEO Tips and Tricks for Blogger Blogs. Hey, Kristin, how are you today?
Hey, Rachel, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk to you. We were just chatting a little bit off air about how we're both from Georgia, so that's always fun.
Yes.
I find that a lot of TPT sellers are from Georgia. It's kind of random, but...
Yeah, and that's actually how I've met some of my close TPT friends is through Georgia, connecting.
Oh, that's too funny. So tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey in education to this point.
So I'm one of those stereotypical people that always knew that I was going to be a teacher. I was one of those kids who played school when I was growing up, and I definitely think that it was my calling. It's what I was meant to do. But when I went to college, I actually started college as a communications major. So I was really interested in doing like graphic design or reporting or something along those lines. I wasn't sure. I was undecided, but I was in the communications college, and that's actually how I met my husband. So no regrets on that part. But I did end up having a change of heart and switched back to education because I knew that was my calling. So I got my bachelor's degrees in general education and special education. This is my 6th year teaching. I've been in 2nd grade, and now I'm in 3rd grade. And now I'm almost done with my master's degree. I'm getting my master's in early childhood education.
Very cool.
And so I think it's funny looking back on the communication because that was kind of like my passion. And then now TPT gives me the ability to combine both things, and it's just been amazing.
Yes, definitely. And you're about to start school soon, right?
Yes, I go back tomorrow.
Wow, that's so crazy. I know I was looking at some of my friends who have kids Instagram, and they were saying they were at open house or back to school night already, and I thought that was crazy. It's July.
I know. So tomorrow is my first pre-planning day, and then the kids come back on the 6th.
Gotcha. Well, tell us about how you got started selling on TPT.
So it's kind of an accident. I always hear people talking about how they first discovered TPT, and I really don't remember, but I guess it was during my senior year when I was working on my student teaching. I think that I was introduced to TPT that way through my mentor teachers. We would use Pinterest and TPT for a lot of our planning because she didn't work together with her grade level or her school or really the district at all. Everyone was just kind of on their own. So we had to start from scratch for everything because it was her first year teaching the grade level that we were in. So I think that's how I came upon it the first time. I didn't plan to sell anything on it. I didn't think I had time for anything like that. And then when I began my first year teaching, I realized from my own personal perspective, wow, we really have nothing. And I'm creating everything for my classroom. And the teammates that I worked with in 2nd grade were amazing and shared stuff with me. But even between the whole team, we still had to create so much, especially to do engaging, innovative lessons. We would come up with these ideas, but then we had no resources. So we ended up making so many things ourselves. And I was pretty technologically adept just because it was a hobby of mine. And so I started whipping up these things for my team to share with them and for my classroom. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put something on TPT just to see what happens. It was really a hobby. I never, ever intended it to turn into the business that it's turned into today. And I'm so blessed for that, and I'm so thankful. But it's just funny how it was a total accident. I never meant for this to happen at all.
Yes, that's a great accident to have. So
yes.
How did it progress? Now your store is very successful. What did that look like over the timeline?
So it started very slowly. I posted my first product in February 2014, and then I think I sold my first product in like May of that year, and I only sold one thing that month. I remember being so excited when I made my first $100 total. It took me probably like 6 months to make my first $100. And then, I don't know, I guess I just realized what an opportunity it could become. When I was kind of still a small seller, I went to the conference for the first time, and that was the conference in Orlando, so 2 years ago. And when I was at the conference, I got to connect with so many people. I learned so many amazing things, not just about creating resources, but also the whole business and marketing side of it, which none of us teachers are professionally trained in. And that was definitely when my progress skyrocketed, when I started putting the right efforts into my store and where I started seeing it pay off.
Mm-hmm. And where are you focusing your marketing efforts now?
You know, I'm trying to test out a bunch of things. So I used to be one of those people who didn't want to see any money going out. Like, no, I'm doing this to make money, not to see my money go away again. And then I was kind of in like a temporary mastermind group here in Atlanta. We kind of fizzled because we're so busy. But they decided to have us set goals, not only for like profit, but also goals for how much we wanted to spend on advertising that month. And that was shocking to me. I was like, no, I don't want to spend any money on advertising, maybe like $20 here and there. But they kind of gave me an idea of a percentage. I can't even remember what it was, maybe like 10 to 25% that they were spending on advertising each month of their expected profit. And so I started trying that, and I've gotten better at releasing my money. I'm still not great at it. I don't do it consistently, but I do test out Facebook ads every once in a while. Facebook and Instagram ads are kind of connected now. You can kind of try them on both platforms. And then promoted pins, I've tried, but I haven't had any success there yet. That's something that I definitely want to learn more about and try to grow my area of expertise in that arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It can be scary to spend money. My husband's always encouraging me to do it. He has like a business background, and I'm like, no, this is crazy. I don't want to spend money to make money. But they say it's necessary.
We're used to keeping the purse strings tight.
Exactly. So how do you track it to see if you should, if you're going to do another Facebook ad? Or you said your Pinterest wasn't as successful. What are you doing to kind of keep track of all of this?
So I'm really not as consistent as I need to be. And one of my big takeaways from the conference was that we have to be using those UTM codes on Teachers Pay Teachers. Are you ever using those at all?
Yes. Yeah, I actually do use those. Once you kind of get in the habit of always putting them in there, it's not too bad. But they're definitely helpful.
So I need to get in that habit because my problem is I'll try ads and I'll think that they're successful based on my sales, but I'm not able to match them up specifically because I'm not using that UTM code. I am a huge fan of Bitly. I know everyone uses Bitly, and Bitly is pretty good with tracking. Like, you can see if it came from Facebook or you can see if it came from Instagram, but it's not quite as specific as the UTM codes. So I'm using like the Facebook analytics, the clicks, and then the Bitly analytics to see how many people are actually going to that product. But something I would like to do is get in the habit of using those UTMs.
Mm-hmm. And then I've been experimenting with advertising myself recently too. And so a couple questions I have you might be able to help with. So if I'm doing an ad, let's say like on Facebook, and I'm deciding between mobile or not mobile, I was doing just desktop because you can't do in-app purchases on the TPT app.
Right.
You can only put it on your wish list. So I was like, well, I don't want people to get there and then leave, But then I wasn't sure. I think a mobile, let's say you don't have the app, I think like a mobile version of TPT comes up, and then you can make a purchase through there. Do you know, or what do you do?
Yes, and that's something that came up at the conference as well, is they were asking, like during the Q&A session, they were asking whether that would be a possibility, like to have a button that would take you directly to the mobile site so people could purchase. People are worried about like what the success percentage is of people putting it in the wish list on their app and then seeing whether they actually purchase that or not down the road. Something that was mentioned over and over again in the sessions, and I went to a lot of the industry expert sessions because that's where I need to learn the most is from those social media people. And in every session I went to, they mentioned doing A/B testing. So in like multiple rounds of A/B testing. So you could do an ad for the same product using 2 different UTM URLs, though, I think, so you can track which one does better, or you can use the Facebook analytics and just change up either the call to action or the text or the image or even the background color or something, see which one does better, choose that one, and then move on to another round of A/B testing. And then in that section, you could do desktop and mobile and see which one's more successful for you. And then once you send like a potential ad through 2 rounds of A/B testing and determining the best possible ad for you, then that's when you start putting the money behind that particular ad. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Super helpful. And I've heard of A/B testing, but only 1 round, I guess, never multi-rounds.
Yeah. And there's like a chart that he showed us. I'm such a visual learner. I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense to try different things and keep trying different things until you really narrow down what it is that's going to be best for you.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your Instagram. It is super successful with almost 43,000 followers, or you might have 43 now since I sent you the questions.
I just did it today.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Congratulations.
I can't believe that many people want to know about me. It's crazy.
That's awesome. So my husband was cute. I was telling him, he's like, who are you interviewing? You know, and then I showed him, I was like, guess how many Instagram followers she had? And he's like, 500? I'm like, no, I have more than 500. But
that's still a big number, though.
I know, when you think about actual people.
I can't imagine 500 people wanting to care about me at all.
Right. So tell us about your account and kind of how you grew that.
So I started my account probably like a year after I started my TPT store. And again, it was kind of an accident. And I look back at my early posts and I'm like, oh, I can't believe anybody followed me. But now I've kind of figured out what my audience likes, what they don't like, what I like to post. And so I think I've finally got a good thing going and I'm seeing the results pay off. But a lot of people message me and tell me how thankful they are that I'm so real and positive, which is funny to me because I don't consider myself the most positive person, but I also don't use Instagram as a platform for complaining because I'm there to be inspirational and I'm there to lift people up and get them excited about teaching. And although I'm relatable and I share things that are hard for me that are going on in my life, I try not to make it a soapbox, if that makes sense. So I'm not like a Pinterest perfect, uptight teacher. I'm real, but I'm also inspiring at the same time, or I try to be. That's my goal. I also try to stay true to my brand. I don't post things that aren't related to teaching. I post just educational stuff. I don't post pictures of my family or me and my friends or my outfits. And some people do that, and that's their, that's what they do, and that's how they get their audience, and their audience loves that. But that's just not something that I found successful for myself. But there are people that will ask me, like, who do you follow for teacher style? And I'll suggest people to them. But I've found out from experience that that's not what works for my audience. So I just try to keep that out. Something else I do is I try to provide value in all of my images. So I don't want it to be constant resharing of other people's products or images. And I don't want to be constantly sharing my products. I try to have a good balance of stuff that I'm trying to soft sell and then valuable either information or ideas or even something to make people laugh. Like in the past year, I've started making memes with images from Sex and the City, so it matches my brand, but it's still related to teaching and it's relatable to my audience while also staying in the realm of education. So I don't know. That's a lot of information, but that's what has worked for me so far.
No, I think those are some great tips. And how did you find out what your audience wanted?
I think just trial and error. Looking back and seeing what posts did well and what posts didn't do well. I'm also a very visual person, like I already mentioned. So I'm really particular about how my feed looks from afar, like the top 9. I know that a lot of people say that that's not that important, and it might not be, but it is to me, because when I'm going to look at other accounts to see if I want to follow them or not, that's what I look at, and that I decide immediately if I want to follow them or not. So I always try to make it pretty and visually appealing for visually crazy people like I am.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you try not to do too many of your own resources or too many reposts. So do you have like a ratio, or how do you find a balance?
I don't have a ratio, but what I will do is I'll just look back at my most recent posts and I'll be like, oh, I just posted a product 2 images ago. So I'm going to wait until there's a few more squares in between, because I want people to be following me because they trust me for, ideas and inspiration and some sort of value, without making them feel like I want them to buy things from me all the time. I do want them to buy things from me, but I think that having, like you said, a ratio makes them trust me more and potentially become a customer in the future if I'm also providing them with value that they don't have to pay for.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you use stories a lot too, right?
I do use stories, and I was really camera shy at first. It was scary, but now I've just kind of gotten in the habit of doing it. And like I said, I try to be positive and I try to stay teaching related. So my stories are much more casual and relaxed, but they're still somehow about school. Like, it'll be something I got in the mail, or sometimes I'll share like outfits and things on my Instagram stories, because I know that my audience would like to see that every once in a while. I just don't want it to be on my feed permanently. Or I'll share funny stories about school, or I love using Instagram stories as like a crowdsourcing to get ideas for blog posts or questions or things that I can help them with in the future. But I found that I really bonded with people through Instagram stories, which was an accident again, but it's fun. And so I try to stay in the routine and try to stay pretty consistent, even though I've kind of fallen off and been MIA this summer, but I'll get back to it soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that idea of crowdsourcing through your stories, especially with the poll feature. That makes it so easy.
Yes, I love the new poll feature and the new questions feature, where you can ask a question and then they can just type the answer in the box. And the best part about that is that it does not come through as a message, so you don't get like a blown up, overflowing mailbox. But when you click on like your insights, you can see all the answers there, just like you would in a poll. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. And how do you manage messages and engaging with everyone?
Oh, it's hard. It's really hard. And sometimes I just don't want to answer at all because I'm tired. But Jen Jones at the TPT conference said, if someone is messaging you or reaching out to you, you need to reply, period. And not with just a heart. And that was really convicting for me, because sometimes I would send just a heart, or sometimes if it was a question that I didn't really seem relatable to my brand, I wouldn't reply. But I've gotten better at replying. Typically, when the mailbox or the inbox is overflowing, it's people that are asking the same question related to my story. So I'll do either one of two things. I'll either copy and paste the answer and personalize it if needed, but a lot of times they're asking the same question, like, what book are you reading? And I'll just send them the title. Or I'll hop back on stories and say, hey, I'm getting a lot of questions about this. Here's the answer. And sometimes people will message with the questions anyways, but then they'll keep watching the stories and they'll message me again and say, oh, sorry, I should have kept watching. You just answered it. Ha ha. And I can just respond with something simple like, ha, thanks so much.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like comment management and everything.
It's a lot. And it is something that I think about. So if I have like a really busy night, I can't leave my Instagram stories open-ended. I can't ask for suggestions because I know that I won't have time to get back to those people in a timely manner. So I've definitely become more thoughtful of what I'm asking for, because people are great and they will respond. And I just want to make sure that I'm being respectful and responding back to them when they're taking the time to reach out to me.
Right. And on a kind of similar note, in terms of TPT feedback, I was just thinking of this the other day because I get really behind on responding to mine. Mm-hmm. Do you keep up with all of yours? Do you respond to everyone?
So that's something I'm trying to get better at too. I don't respond to everybody, but I do respond to the people that leave thoughtful feedback. Mm-hmm. So if I can tell that they're leaving specific feedback for that specific product that they purchased, then I'll respond to them. If it's just like a thanks or a smiley face, or, even better, just a period, I don't respond to that. but for the people I do respond to, again, I copy and paste usually a sentence that says, like, thank you so much for taking the time to leave feedback. And I'll respond something personally to them, like, hey, I'm so glad that these grammar puzzles worked out great in your classroom. And then I'll paste the thank you sentence. So it saves me a little bit of time, but I'm still personalizing the responses.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I was just thinking about that because I was staying on top of them and then I got a little behind and now they're piling up, especially because people are kind of leaving a lot of feedback now because I think they're ready to make some more purchases. So I know, but that's a good idea using, because if they took the time, to leave a really thoughtful review, then we can do that in return.
Yeah. That's how I view it. And I hope that's okay with them. But it's hard. They definitely pile up.
Yes. So back to your Instagram, how are you monetizing that, or how are you getting traffic to your store and to your site?
So that's funny because that goes right off of TPT feedback. One of my favorite things ever is when someone leaves me feedback and they're like, hey, I saw this on your Instagram and I had to have it. That just makes my day. I usually screenshot it as a motivator for myself to look at later. So it is working. It's amazing how especially through stories, I think if you show products in action and you show how you make them work for you and you tell them why this is going to be effective and why it's going to save you time and why this is beneficial, people will buy it. And I think that I've had more success with stories than with just posting on Instagram, because within the stories, you can be real and explain all those things. Whereas just an image, most people aren't going to take the time to read a really long, drawn-out caption. For the images, though, I do use link and profile, so I can track how many clicks there are, but that doesn't necessarily tell me what the conversion rate is.
Right. And are you usually sending people to your website and then to a blog post that will later lead them to the product on TPT, or directly to TPT?
It depends. So for some products where they're very well explained and I'm even more convincing, it's more of a soft sell blog post, I will send them to the blog post because I think it seems less salesy and you're trying to reply or provide them with valuable information. And then the link is in there and they'll find it if they really want it. If it's someone who really wants it, they'll click through that extra time to find it. And then if it's a product that doesn't really require a lot of explaining, then I'll just link to it on TPT.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a good tip because it's hard to tell. And then, also if you're collecting an email list, that's equally valuable. So sometimes you want to drive traffic to your website to get more email signups, and sometimes you want to send them straight to the product. So I have a hard time sometimes deciding which one's more valuable.
Yeah, that is hard. And that's something you could do an A/B test too.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Definitely. So what about Facebook Lives? Are you using those in addition to Instagram stories?
So I don't do Facebook Live as often. I am in a group of sellers that does what we call Facebook, all capital BOOK, hop once a month, and we share books. So we did one just yesterday about back to school. And so we'll share the book and then we'll share a freebie that goes along with it. And I've definitely seen that to be successful with growing my Facebook following. But I started my Facebook way after I started my Instagram, so it's definitely a slower build, and I'm definitely not as familiar with Facebook as I am with Instagram. But I like doing those monthly lives because they hold me accountable. I know that someone is going to link to my page and say, hey, go check out Kristin's live. And if I'm not there, then, I'm messing everything up. So that holds me accountable. I like that because it's pretty terrifying. There have been a few times that I've gone live by myself, and I have seen success with those. So I'll kind of use those the same way that I would with Instagram stories, or that's at least what I've done so far. If I'm selling a product, I'll explain how it works, and I'll explain how you can differentiate, and I'll explain how I do it and how it's beneficial. And Facebook Live gives people the opportunity to leave questions, and you can leave answers, which are then there forever publicly for other people to see. So I really like that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But I don't do enough.
There's so much to do. So what about blogging?
Sure. So my blog came first. I need to go through my blog and prune it because all of my first blog posts were all the linky parties, which I guess helped me meet other TPTers, but isn't providing much valuable content in the long run. So I have some super successful blog posts that I've kind of studied and tried to figure out what makes them successful, and then I've tried to model my new posts after that. And I don't blog as often as I should. It's on my to-do list, but it's hard to come up with content, especially content that doesn't involve products, because as sellers, we're naturally like, oh, I have this new product, I want to sell it, I should blog about it. So although I do that, I have a harder time coming up with content that's not related to products.
Mm-hmm. And what else, like what other features do you have on your website besides your blog? Are you using an email list?
I am using an email list. So right now I have a hello bar on my blog that I put the hello bar there probably, I guess, 2 years ago after I went to the Orlando conference, and started collecting emails and didn't do anything with it until probably 6 months ago. So I started using ConvertKit 6 months ago. I have my welcome sequence, and then I have a newsletter that I'm sending out every Sunday. And that's hard to create content for that too. So that's why I've kind of been going back through my blog and finding free, valuable content and repurposing that for my newsletter.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that's a question a lot of listeners have is, what should we be sending out? But it's important to remember that not everyone, sometimes I assume that everyone's reading every blog post and seeing every Instagram and opening every email. So it's okay to repurpose content. Right.
And they're not. And I always try to ask myself, what kind of stuff do I want in my inbox? And what kind of stuff that I actually read instead of just clicking delete all the way. So back to the A/B testing. I like that ConvertKit does, you can do A/B testing with the subject line. And that's like a fun little game for me. I'll do 2 different subject lines and I'll guess which one will do better. And I'm almost always wrong.
That's funny. So this is within one. So let's say you're going to send it to 100 people. You would do 50 people with a different subject line.
Yeah, so ConvertKit actually does it for you. So you just click the A/B button, and then you type in both of your subject lines, and then ConvertKit sends your email to a percentage of your list. I think it's like 10% of your list. And then 4 hours later, it'll compare the statistics on its own and then choose the most successful subject line and send it to the rest of your list.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great.
And it's all automatic.
Yes, that's really great. So we've been talking about all kinds of advertising and marketing. So let's talk about your schedule, because you are still in the classroom. So how are you managing all of this?
Yes. Well, I'm still in the classroom and I'm working on my master's.
Right,
so
yes.
This past year has been pretty much nothing but just trying to stay afloat and trying to stay active in social media. I don't want people to think that I've disappeared, but I haven't had time to create any content. Any content I've been creating has been papers for grad school. So this past year, it's just been marketing alone, rarely creating anything else. But now that I'm almost done, I'm ready to get back in the creation side of things. And I missed that too. So I'm excited about it. And at the conference, on my last day of the conference, I made a schedule for myself, like a day of the week schedule, days across the top, time slots across the left side, and I wrote everything in. And it's amazing how much free time I actually have. Even though I'm teaching full time, and even though I like to work out and I like to sleep and I like to take care of myself and I have to do grad school, I still found so much free time in my schedule that I'm hoping to stick to work on my marketing and product creation.
That's awesome. And that's so reassuring just to write it down, and you might have more time than you think.
Yeah, and I scheduled in personal time too. So I know I'll still get to watch my Netflix. I'll still get to do everything that I want to do. But I think I'm having it down on paper and being able to look at it and being able to check things off the list, I think it'll make me more productive. It has so far for the past few weeks I've been using it.
Yeah, that's great. And you said you were doing pretty much 100% marketing versus product creation while you're in school. But what does your ideal ratio look like for when you're finished with school?
So my schedule that I've been working on for the past few weeks is about 40-60, I think. 40% marketing, 60% content creation. content being products and blog posts because I'm trying to keep my blog active too. So what I've done is I've put all of my marketing stuff in the morning, and I mean, school starts tomorrow, so we'll see what happens, but I've given myself 30 minutes every morning to do marketing, and each day is a different day. So I have Tailwind, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my newsletter that I'll work on each morning because that doesn't require a lot of brain power to just get those things ready and schedule them. And then in the afternoons and the evenings, I've scheduled my content creation.
Okay. And you mentioned Tailwind. What other tools are you using to schedule out content?
I use Tailwind for Twitter. I'm not for Twitter, for Pinterest. And I love it. I'm using TweetDeck for Twitter. I've just been trying the past 6 weeks or so to get active on Twitter. I know there's not a huge audience on Twitter, but that's where all of the techie teachers are. And I think that I can relate with them. And I think that as I start to create products that are more digital or more choice and voice, that's where those teachers are. And then for Instagram, you can use Tailwind for Instagram now. I haven't tried it, but you can. All I do is I create my drafts all in one day, and then I have my drafts sitting on my Instagram, and then whenever I'm ready to post it, I just click on it and click post. So I have those all ready to go.
Okay. How do you save a draft on Instagram?
You just create your post. You can upload the picture. You can do the filter. It won't save the draft unless you type something in the caption. So I go ahead and get my caption ready. I put my hashtags in there. You can even tag people and tag locations. And then when you click the back button, like you were not going to do it anymore, it says save draft, and you save it as a draft, and then it pops up at the top of your camera roll when you get ready to Instagram something new.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know you could do that with the caption and everything.
Yeah, it's really helpful, especially for giveaways or loops. Like yesterday, for example, I had to I don't know why I keep saying that. I had to Instagram at 12 o'clock. Because I was part of this loop we were marketing for that Facebook Live that we did, trying to get our Instagram followers over to Facebook. But I knew I was going to be at church at 12 o'clock. So what I did was on my way to church, I had my image uploaded, I filtered it, I edited it, I typed in my whole caption, I tagged the person that I was going to go to next, saved it as a draft, and then while I was sitting in church, my watch buzzed me and said it's 12 o'clock. So I just picked up my phone real quick and clicked post. And it was done.
Oh, that's great.
So I didn't have to feel as guilty as I would have had to feel.
That's funny. No, that's so good to know. I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've been scheduling them out a whole week at a time. So Wednesday morning is my Instagram draft day. And it's so nice because every night I'll look at the clock and I'll be like, oh, it's 8 o'clock or it's 8-ish. And I'll just pick one and post it, and I don't even have to think about it because usually in the evening I'm in the middle of something, whether that be a Netflix show or making dinner. I probably don't want to be thinking about typing my Instagram caption.
Right. Yes. You can do it in the morning when you're fresh. Such a good idea.
Yeah.
So you sound like you're pretty tech savvy. So what are some tools or hacks that you use to stay organized and productive?
So lately for productivity, I've been using the Flipped app. That's FLIPD. And basically, it just sets a timer on your phone, and you pick up your phone, you click flip off, and then you pick up your phone, and it's like, oh no, you're supposed to be working, basically. And that's enough of a visual reminder for me. And I'm like, oh, darn it. And I put my phone down, and I work until the timer goes off, and then I feel really accomplished when I get the notification that says, you did it. It's a free app, and the app actually has the ability to completely lock your phone, take away all of the apps, the social media apps for a certain amount of time. I haven't tried that yet because I don't think I need, that in-depth of accountability, but it can do that. And then another productivity app that I just downloaded last week is called Streaks. And again, it's just something silly, but I like checking things off of a list. And it's just you tap it if you've done whatever you wanted to do that day. So say you want to Instagram every day. Whenever you Instagram, you open the Streaks app, click that you did it, and you continue your streak. And I don't want to break my streak. I want to click the streak button every day and keep my streak as long as possible, because that's just what motivates me, as crazy as that sounds.
No, that sounds great. So it would say like you've done this 20 days in a row, and if you mess up or skip a day, you have to start over.
Yes, and you can set it for like weekdays only or every Monday. So like if you just want to do something on Mondays, it's as long as you check it off every Monday, you keep your streak.
Okay, that's great. I really like that.
It's silly, but I like it. And that one's not free, but it was $5, and I always have Apple gift cards.
Yeah, there you go. So what about you said those are for productivity. What about organization? Are you using anything to stay organized?
I'm not. I'm trying to explore Airtable. I don't really know what it does yet. I heard about it at the conference. It seems complicated. I haven't figured it out. But I think that the intent of Airtable is to like organize your content kind of by time period. That way, like when next August rolls around, you don't have to think about what you need to post. You just look back at it and say, oh, I have all of these resources, all of these blog posts, all of these videos that I can reshare with my audience without having to create new content. But like I said, I haven't tried it yet. I haven't figured it out, but it seems like it'll be really cool when I do figure it out.
Yes, I've heard about that one as well, and I looked at it, but haven't really messed with it yet. But I think it would be helpful, and I believe it's free also. Yes,
it is. Or it has like different levels, but just the basic level is free, which is, I think, what we would need.
Mm-hmm. So what is something that you think most TPT sellers tend to underutilize or overlook?
So something that I have learned along the way is to ask the people what they want, and they will tell you. So you don't have to be this amazing person that comes up with all these amazing, unique ideas by yourself and expect to meet your audience's needs. So I found that if you ask them, either ask them a question, what are you struggling with in this specific area? They'll tell you, and that'll give you ideas for blog posts or even products. And then product lines, what content areas or what specific topics would you like to see this in? They'll tell you. So, for example, I'm making science and social studies choice boards right now, and I finished all of the topics that I actually teach. And I used that question feature on Instagram, I guess probably last week or the week before. And I've also posted it on Facebook like a month ago saying, hey, I'm making these. What topics would you like to see? And now I seriously have like a never-ending list of ideas. I'll never finish these boards. But I'm building my relationships with them. I'm hearing my customers. I'm serving them. I'm giving them what they want. And at the same time, it's giving me ideas for things that I can produce. So I found crowdsourcing to be really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also frustrating if you come up with a product and you think it's going to be great and then it isn't as well received as you thought because there's not a need for it.
Right. Well, and if someone tells you, oh, I would love to see this, covering rocks and minerals, at least one person's going to buy it, hopefully.
Right.
And if that person needs it, think of all the people that aren't speaking up that probably need it too.
Right. Definitely. So you mentioned earlier that you have kind of a network of other sellers that you're collaborating with. What are you doing? A mastermind group, or you mentioned the Facebook thing?
Yeah, so the Facebook thing is just kind of for fun. It's a group that I collaborate with, but not like on a daily consistent basis. I do have a small mastermind group. We all met through the Primary Peach blog, which used to be a blog ran by Georgia educators. It has since fizzled, but we all still love each other. And the small group of girls that I found through the Primary Peach, we seriously talk every day about all types of things, but they hold me accountable. They're honest with me. If I need help with something, they'll help me with it. If I need feedback on something, they'll give me honest feedback. They'll tell me if my idea is terrible. They'll tell me if I'm making a mistake. And I don't know what I would do without them. I don't think that my business would be where it is without them. We also have a Facebook group that we share. We haven't done a whole lot yet in that arena. We do share a Facebook group, and we kind of all cater to the same audience. So we use that to our advantage. We have a Tailwind tribe, so we're always repinning each other. We usually do like an Instagram sharing schedule, so we're constantly resharing each other every so often, just occasionally, not so it's over the top. But they definitely always have my back, and I always have theirs. And that's another thing about TPT that's just been amazing, is I didn't mean for all these awesome relationships to come out of it, but it has.
Yes, that's so great to hear. So let's talk about back to school, because you're literally starting tomorrow.
My gosh. Yes.
But in terms for business, how are you getting your business and your store back to school ready? Or how did you over the summer, I guess?
So something I've been doing just for the past few days is going back through my blog post. And at back to school, I've noticed that a lot of TPT authors tend to have more freebies or advertise more freebies than usual, because in the back to school period, everyone's broke, everyone's spending money trying to set up their classrooms, and some people haven't been paid all summer, and freebies are definitely, I think, shown more at back to school. So what I've done is I've been going back through my back to school blog posts, and I've been turning all of my freebies into lead magnets for my email list. So they're still freebies, and they're still back to school related, but instead of just giving them the link, I'm instead embedding the form for my lead magnet to get them on my email list.
Okay, so is this a freebie that's on TPT, or do they only get it by coming to your website?
No, I have a few that are hosted on Google Drive, and most of the ones that I do that way are because they're quick and easy and editable, and it's just easier to do it that way than putting an editable product on TPT. So, like, for example, I have these gift tags to put on gifts for your students. Super simple. It took me like maybe 2 minutes to make, and I made it for my own classroom. So I knew people would want it, so I did a blog post about it and just gave them the link. And this year I was like, maybe they can give me their email address in exchange for this freebie. And it's worked so well so far. So I've done that for a few other things that I had posted throughout the years.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. And what other tips?
It's so simple. I wish I'd thought to do it earlier. It's so simple.
Yeah, it is simple. And then I'm sure it's worth it for them. Like you said, it's still a freebie, but then they're just giving their email in exchange.
Yeah.
So what other tips do you have for edupreneurs when it comes to back to school season?
So my absolute most successful blog posts are my back to school blog posts. Every year I blog about my Meet the Teacher, or my sneak peek, or whatever you call it. Every year I blog about my first week, and I have found that those blog posts are by far the most read, and those products that are embedded within those blog posts are so successful, even though I never expected them to be, just because those posts get so much traffic, because teachers are always looking for that at back to school. So that's something I'm going to try to keep up, is every single year blogging about my Meet the Teacher, blogging about my first week plans, and making sure to integrate my products with useful and valuable ideas, making pins, and sharing them year after year after year.
I think that's a great idea. Yes, so repurposing older posts and then writing new ones every year, because it seems to be the best content.
Yes, it seems to be something that people are still searching for. So I want to be able to provide that information to them, old information and new information.
So it's a really busy time of year. So what is something personally or in your business that's been a lifesaver for back to school season?
Well, I'm so glad that I have all these schedulers now, and I've spent some extra time scheduling, like on Tailwind, and creating Instagram drafts, and even on Facebook, to try to get me through the first week of school, because I want to be consistent on my social media, but I know that those first few weeks are so difficult. Even back to the Meet the Teacher and first week blog posts, I've already started writing my blog posts, because I know what I'm going to be doing, and I know I'm not going to want to blog about it after the first day of school. So I'm writing my blog posts now, and I'll just input the images after I take the pictures. And I'm hoping that that will be a lifesaver for me a couple weeks from now.
Yes, that's a great idea. Always planning ahead. So what advice would you give someone who's just getting started out on this TPT journey?
something that I learned before my store really took off was that your products need to solve problems. So the first products that I made were like hall passes and signs with class rules, and they were cute, and I used them in my classroom, but those markets are so oversaturated. No, I mean, you don't need to make new hall passes or new posters because there's so many out there. And once I learned that my products needed to solve problems, and once I learned that the products I was least excited to make were the ones that were going to be the most successful, that's when I started seeing my store really take off. So some of my favorite products, or one of them, for example, is like my team jobs. I hated changing jobs. I didn't change jobs consistently. It took up so much space in my classroom. And once I figured out how to solve that problem for myself, I thought, hey, maybe this could solve problems for other teachers that are having the same problem. And that product has been so successful because I solved a unique problem instead of providing a resource that there were already so many options out there. I wish I had learned that 2 years earlier.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it helps you if you're trying to come up with, a new product idea. Just think about a problem that can be solved or that you had in the past or that you currently have in your classroom.
Yes.
Well, this has been awesome. You are so inspiring to talk to. So what is next for you, Kristin?
Well, I'm almost done with grad school. I cannot wait to get my life back, both my social life and my TPT life, because I miss it. I miss creating. And so I'm excited to get back to that. I don't know, down the road, I kind of want to fill more of like a leadership role by becoming like either a math or a reading coach, or maybe an interventionist, something along those lines. And as far as my business, I really want to continue to educate myself and to continue to grow myself so that I become someone that people turn to as an educational expert, not just someone with a cute classroom and cute products. I think I have started that shift, but I'm trying to move more in that direction.
Awesome. Well, that's really great. So glad to hear that. So where can the listeners find you if they want to connect and check out your store?
All right, my TPT store and all of my social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, are all School and the City. And then my website is satcblog.com, and all of my links are on there as well.
Which is such a cute name, by the way. I love it. I saw some of your memes recently.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not like the most school appropriate, but this is a business for teachers, not for students. It's fine.
Exactly. It was so great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I love Kristin's idea of using Instagram to crowdsource. As for me and my travels, I am in Portugal. We are exploring Porto and Lisbon and trying to beat the heat. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to Elite Edupreneurs. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of Elite Edupreneurs. See you next Tuesday.